Hi there. I'm going to walk you through the solution for problem 7 in chapter 6, which is on page 54 in my textbook. So we're provided with a small list of names, and we are asked to present them in a different order. So in order to do that, um, we're going to have to place these names in different columns. So in the first example, Gregory, William, Winston is all contained within one cell. And I'd like to divide that out so that we would have Gregory in one column, William in another column, and Winston in the final column. So to do that, we're going to work through a number of different steps. So to extract the first name, I'm going to use a left function. Maybe I'll put this here. And you'll remember from our earlier example, question 2, exactly how we do that. So first of all, we use a find function to locate the first space. So I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. It's convenient in this particular data set to note that in each example, there is a space that divides the names. And so that's something that we can use to our advantage. So we're going to find the first space. So remember, the way we indicate a space is by using a quotation mark, typing space, and another quotation mark. And we're going to ask Excel to look into B5 to find the first space. And we want Excel to start counting from the first character, or start looking from the first character, I should say. So that's why I enter 1. Okay, there we go. And I'll copy this down. So Excel is telling us in this case that the first space is the 8th character in that string. So now we get to, we can use a left function to extract the first name. So we'll tell Excel to go and look in B5 and extract everything left of the 8th character. Although we're not going to type 8, we're going to refer to the cell C5 because it changes for each of the cells as we go down. Okay, and let's copy this down and take a look and see if that looks right. And it certainly does. It's done exactly what we wanted. It's extracted the first name. Okay, I'm going to type first name up here. So I'm certainly not following all of the best practices in terms of naming columns, but this is sort of my working copy. And once I get to the end of this exercise, I will clean it up, okay? So now we have the first name extracted. And we want to be able to extract the middle name. So this one's a little bit trickier, and we're actually going to use a mid function to do that. But before we do that, we need to use a find formula to locate the second space. Okay, the second space. So I'll type find here. So we still want to find a space. So I'll use the quote, space, quote within this cell. Now here's where we're going to take full advantage of the start number. So usually we just select 1 because we want Excel to start looking from the very first character. In this case, I don't want Excel to start looking from the first character because I already know what that answer is. It's the result in C5. I want Excel to start looking after that space. So I want to find the next space. So the way I can instruct Excel to do that for me is to ask Excel to look from ask Excel to start looking after the first space. And the way I do that is select where the first space was found plus 1. Okay, I'll close the bracket. Okay, so we're telling Excel, start looking after the first space, which we know in this case is the 8th character, and let me know where the next space is. Okay, and that's 16. So this second space is the 16th character. Copy that down. Okay, now we can use a mid function to return the middle name. So let's do that now. Mid. Okay, so Excel, first of all, wants to know where are we looking? So here's where we're looking, in here. From which number should Excel start? So we want Excel to start here. Okay. How many characters should Excel extract for us? So in this case, we want Excel to extract all of the characters between the second space and the first space. Okay, so in that case, it's this value minus this value. And I'll close my bracket. Now, when you look at this, you'll notice, or you may or may not notice, but I can tell that there's actually a space before the name William. I don't really want that space. So in fact, what I want Excel to do, remember the second value was the start number. So instead of starting with the space, I'm going to add 1 to tell Excel to take the space and move over 1 character. When I do that, you're going to see the space is gone. So I'm going to hit enter now. Notice there's no space beside William. Okay, so I'll copy this down. And we can see it's working exactly as we want. And I think what I'll do up here is I'm going to call this the first space. Okay, and this is the second space. Okay, so then we'll just know what all of this data is. And this is the middle name. Okay, so we're 2/3 of the way there. We've got the first name extracted, the middle name extracted, and now we need to extract the last name. So we know how to do this. We've done it in an earlier example in problem 2. So we will use a length formula to extract the entire length. And then we'll use a right formula to extract the last name. So the length formula is a very simple one, LEN. So what's the total length of this cell? Okay. There we go, we copy that down. And now to extract the last name, we'll take everything right of in this text. And very similar to the previous example, we'll take the entire length and we will deduct the number of characters to the second space. Okay, so in this case, it is the length minus 16, or the number of characters up to the second space. Okay, and that looks correct to me. We'll copy it down. As you copy it down, you want to make sure that you don't have anything funny, so that you haven't cut off a couple of the letters or added some spaces. And I don't see anything like that here. Now, what we are truly asked to do is to return an answer that has, excuse me, type it up here, the last name, with a comma and then a space, first name, space, middle name. Okay, that's the result that we're looking for right here. So here we have the last name. So what we want to have is this name followed by a comma, followed by a space, then the first name followed by a space, and then the middle name. So we'll use a concatenate formula to do that. So I'll type equals concat. Whoops, have to spell it properly. So this tells Excel string together everything I tell you in here. So we want the last name. That's right here. The next thing we want is a comma, space. So we'll use a quote, an open quote mark. I'll type a comma, and I'm going to type a space as well. Okay, close the quote. Now I'll use a comma to indicate I'm moving to the next item that I want to include. The next thing we need is the first name, which is right here. I'll use a comma to indicate I'm adding something new. So the next thing I want to add is a space. So I'll do an open quote, space, close quote. Now a comma to indicate the next thing I want to add. The next thing I want to add is the middle name. Okay. And I'm going to close the bracket. Those are all of the things that I want to include. So now when I hit enter, what I should see is the last name followed by a comma, space, first name, space, middle name. So let's see if we get that. In fact, that's exactly what we have. If after you entered the formula, you weren't happy with the result, and I'm going to purposely break this. Imagine you saw, oh, it looks like there already is a space in between first and last name. It's interesting. It looks like we did not need to add a second space between the first name and the last name. Okay, I guess we don't need to. We learned something today, or I learned something today. So let's copy this down, and we'll just quickly check to make sure it looks exactly correct, and it does. So I guess we did not need to add that second space. Just for fun, I'm going to remove the space after the comma to see what the result is. Yeah. So when I removed the space after the comma, you can see that's not exactly what we wanted. So I'll put that back in. I guess the point I'm making is if you do this concatenate formula and you look at the result and think that's not quite what I wanted, it's okay. You can go back into the formula and you can add the space or add an and sign or remove a comma, whatever you need to do to make the data look the way that you're trying to achieve. So there we go. So now I will take this and I'll put it right here. In fact, that's the title. That's what this is. Over here we have, we've got first name, whoops, first name, middle name, last name. And I'll call this the first, what I'll do is move these headings. I'll replace my formula hints that I gave to myself right here. Oops. I guess I'll get rid of this, and this is the total length. Okay, I'll make all of these long enough. This doesn't need to be highlighted yellow anymore. I'll format this as a title. Okay, and the last thing I'll do is get rid of this dead space. There we go. Whoops, That was insert instead of delete. I can fix it. So these are really powerful tools. The concatenate really allows you to connect um, a series of text together within one cell, and you can always include other symbols. So if you wanted to include an and sign, we'll do that just for fun. I'll put it in at the end. You put a comma, and then you'll put your quote marks. And in fact, I could even type the word and, A-N-D, and close my quote marks. When I hit enter, you're going to see the word and right at the end. Okay. If you wanted to, you could put an and, any word you wanted in the middle. So let's put stop just for fun. Okay, and I'll close the quote. There you go. So we've added that in. And so if I wanted to, I could copy that all the way down. Now, I don't want to, I was just sort of as an example. So what I'll do, this formula right here is correct. I'm going to copy this one all the way up and get rid of the silly business that I added in. Okay, so that concludes this exercise.